Hello again. This is Brian Copeland talking. Welcome to another edition of Copeland's Corner, or as we're calling it now, What Did That Moron Do This Week? As always, I'm joined by a distinguished panel of comics. Brian Malow is back with us. He's taking up residence here all the time. It's always good to see you. Wendy Liebman is back. My first time with Wendy, because last time you were here, I thought Tom Sawyer filled in for me because I was out with a bug. Scott Silverman, I am told, is en route, so he should be here shortly. But we're going to go ahead and we are going to start. So we'll start this way. We've got this new sort of segment that we're doing called kind of a round robin thing, where I've got individual questions for each of you about something that's gone on over the course of the week. You'll chat, and then we will open it up and let everybody jump in. So why don't we start with Wendy? Okay, so here's the question I've got for you. Since Charlie Kirk was murdered, you have seen government flags at half staff. You have seen a number of professional sports teams, such as the Yankees. There have been a couple of NFL teams. And I think there was a hockey team that took a moment of silence in remembrance of him. So my question for you is this. Do you think that given the nature of what it is that the man said and what it is that the man stood for, that this is something that government buildings should be lowering the flag, that the Yankees should be going, before we start for a first pitch, let's all bow our heads? Do you think that this is appropriate? And I don't mean to put a MAGA target on your head.
Wish I were smarter.
I'm sorry.
I said, I wish I were smarter and could figure out this very complex situation, but I'm not. Look, a flag is a symbol, and it symbolizes, it can be for identification. It can be for communication. Oh, I love your cat. It can be for a ceremony, and it can be for protest. So by lowering the flag is not mandated except on Memorial Day and for the death of certain public figures. Like you're not the president and some governors and but I personally think it should always be at half-mast, because somebody is in mourning every day, because people die every day. So I'm not really answering your question. What was your question?
Well, the way that he's being memorialized is like he was a saint, like he was an elected official who is worthy of national praise and national mourning and national remembrance. The guy who said that Martin Luther King was a scumbag. And that
look,
when,
it's inconsistent. It's inconsistent who they're telling us we should lower the flag for. If they're going to lower it for one person, they should lower it for, lowering the flag, it should not be a political act. I think it has to be a personal decision.
Well, but on a government building, it is a political act, because it's a government building. He lowered the flags at the White House. That makes it a political act.
Right. So a person looking at it can decide that it's lowered because somebody was killed and they are mourning violence.
So there are lots of things you can mourn for. So if you put it at half-mast, then okay. All right, I can see that train of thought.
So I think it's inconsistent. It's a very complex situation. And regarding sports teams who are making silence at a football game. I mean, sports should not be political. And I guess it's up to the individual to comply with a demand from their boss, as we know with Colin Kaepernick.
Kaepernick, yeah.
And we saw what happened to him. So I guess it's all about agency and like, do we feel free as individuals to make our own decisions about what we want to do with symbols? Because the flag is a symbol.
Yeah, it is.
I know I'm not answering the question.
Well, it's a difficult
exactly.
question, or can be a difficult question to answer for some.
Maybe it would be simplified if we just lowered it all the way, not just half.
Just take it down.
That was interesting when Wendy said that it shouldn't be political. Maybe would it be fair to say since it's an act by the administration, it's political, but it shouldn't be it should be nonpartisan though.
Yeah, I mean, when you had the speaker the former speaker in Minnesota, and her husband and her dog get assassinated a couple months ago, not only was the flag not lowered to half staff, Trump refused to call the governor of Minnesota.
No, I mean, that's why it's inconsistent. Yeah. And so it's turned into something very political and authoritarian almost. Mm-hmm. But I'm trying to think more philosophically, like let's say somebody who works in a government building doesn't want to lower the flag, but has been asked to lower the flag by the president.
Ordered. It was the government building ordered.
In their heart, they can order it lowered, or they can lower it for death or violence in general. I'm just trying to think how you can get around.
Well, I think that there's certain protocol, and I don't know what the protocol is, and I think it varies from state to state, jurisdiction to jurisdiction. The thing with sports teams, though, where I do disagree with you when you say that's it's political and sports politics have no place in the sports. Then why are we starting with the national anthem? Why are we starting at every baseball game, football game starts with the anthem? Then you got to stand up, and if you got your hat on, take it off and put it over your heart. And what did you help?
Well, is that political or is that nationalism?
Actually, probably more nationalism.
Yeah, what's the history of that? How did that even get started? Why do we do that?
World War II.
Yeah,
that's when it started.
I know that flags were lowered when George Washington died, probably before then too, for ways to communicate in the Navy. When a ship is coming, it's like you're telling somebody who you are, but they were lowered in the U.S. when George Washington died. That was the first instance.
So bottom line is Charlie Kirk having the lowered flag is George Washington's fault. We're done.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest and let's just point the finger where the finger needs to be pointed.
Look, I think if you want to get a soundbite from my question, you could say that I believe that flags should be lowered every day at half mast because somebody is always dying. And
somebody's mourning someplace.
Exactly.
Somebody's mourning someplace. Okay. All right. That's a good philosophical answer. Brian, here's your question. Here's a little bit more complicated.
More complicated.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. Yes and no.
I mean, I know what you wanted me to say.
No, I didn't. No, I wanted you to say what you wanted to say.
Okay.
And then that's how this show works. You say whatever it is that you want to say. Whether I agree with you or disagree with you has absolutely no bearing on what it is that you say. We're having debate, and hopefully we're having some fun. That's how this works. All right. So Trump is filing has filed a $15 billion lawsuit against the New York Times, which is more than its market cap, claiming that it's a mouthpiece for the DNC because it wrote articles that Trump did not like. And there is one that is specific. I'll get to that. Also named is the defendants are Penguin Random House and 4 reporters because they wrote a book that was published. They published a book. Penguin Random House, I guess, is owned by the New York Times, same parent company. They published a book called Lucky Loser: How Donald Trump Squandered His Father's Fortune and Created the Illusion of Success. And now Trump says that he's trying to bring integrity back to journalism. That's a quote. He's trying to bring integrity back to journalism. Experts in the law are saying that there is no legal basis, just like the ABC suit with Stephanopoulos, where they caved and paid money to settle, just like the CBS suit about the interview with Kamala Harris, where they caved because they needed the FCC's permission in order to for this $8 billion merger between CBS, Paramount, and Skydance. So the question is whether or not, well, actually, there are a couple of things. One is, if you get sued, and he's used to this. This is what he used to do, like in Atlantic City: hire contractors, not pay them, and then say, "Sue me, but I have more money than you, and take half of what it is that I owe you, because if you sue me, you're going to win, but I'm going to make sure that it costs you twice as much or 3 times as much as you're owed I'll keep you tied up in court so much that it's going to cost you a fortune." So it can be time consuming and it could be expensive. So the question is, do you think that with CBS caving like they did, with ABC caving that they did, that the New York Times has said, they swear today that they're not going to cave, but this is the first day. They swear they're not going to cave. So I'll ask whether or not you think they're going to cave. I'll ask you whether or not you think that journalists are saying this is going to have a chilling effect on journalism, because, you got 4 reporters being sued. So if you're a reporter and you have the option of breaking a big Trump story that is going to be negative and is going to piss him off and maybe make him sue you, are you going to think twice and go, "Nah, I'll cover the flower show instead"? So do you think it'll have a chilling effect on journalism, number one? Number two, do you think that the Times is going to cave?
Sadly, I can't predict, but
of course not.
I'll say that the chilling effect is just the fact that it's happening. It is disturbing that these are the tactics. They're not surprising, really. They're not new from them, from the party of free speech, from the party that, even in light of the Charlie Kirk situation, they keep wanting to say that the reason the left hated him is because he was such a proponent of free speech and invited debate. Come argue with me, like that really was an accurate depiction of it all, ignoring the fact that he mobilized his followers to dox and harass professors and maybe at least liberal professors. Heather Cox Richardson and others have told their stories of being harassed.
Well, not just harassed, death threats.
Yeah. So this just happening is chilling. It's interesting. So the CBS, ABC stuff, and Larry Ellison and his son, and when you're so beholden and dependent on the government to approve a deal, that's the thing. To have a free press, it has to be independent of those sorts of situations, because they can be used that way. And then how can we trust the free press? So I don't know. I hope they'll stick to their guns. In one way, if a journalist has a hot story and it may result in getting you sued by Donald Trump, it will probably just get the story more attention than it was going to get in the first place. So there's that upside to it.
Mm-hmm. But the
See,
downside
you're
is
smart.
I don't know if I'm answering the question either.
Well, no, you are answering the question, and I'm going to put you in a situation, Wendy, and ask you this. Okay, you are a reporter for the New York Times.
Me?
You. Okay, you are a reporter for the New York Times, an investigative.
Improv. It's improv.
Okay? Improv. Ready? You ready?
Yeah.
That was very Lois Lane of you.
Very believable.
Very Lois Lane of you. I expected Superman to swoop in at any moment.
Wait,
that was
where are
so
my
Lois
glasses?
Lane.
Hold on. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, you look nothing like that comedian that was just on.
So you're a reporter for the New York Times, and you get indisputable evidence. It cannot be disputed, irrefutable evidence of the connection between Epstein and Trump, and that they were both molesting girls.
Ooh, good.
Now,
I mean, good that I got the scoop.
okay, you've got the scoop. Now, if you publish it, your life's going to be hell. He's going to sue you. He keep you in court for the rest of your career. Even if you win, they can appeal and appeal and appeal. It's going to end up bankrupting you. It's going to end up with you getting harassed by MAGA, with your family harassed by MAGA. Do you publish the story? You, Wendy Liebman, personally, yourself, Wendy Liebman, reporter for the New York Times, under those circumstances, do you publish the story?
Look, I know these threats are real because I am friends with comedy club owners who have had to cancel acts, who spoke out against one thing or another because they got threats. Like, I would fear for my life. And I guess I would maybe give the story to Andy Borowitz or somebody who would publish it without me being attached to it. I think I'm too, like, it's the same reason I don't talk politics in my act, is that I don't need another reason for people not to like me. You can think I'm funny or not, but don't hate me for my politics. So yeah, that's but as Brian says, it would get a lot of attention. And so
you
maybe
get a book
some
deal.
Lawyer would offer some pro bono work.
Yeah, you could get a book deal, and maybe your royalties could pay some of the legal fees.
I could get a bouncer. I could get some physical protection. I mean, when people are coming after your livelihood, your body, your family, can I swear?
Sure.
It's a scary fucking time right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, Congressman Eric Swalwell they gave me an interview on the podcast about 2 months ago now. And he is, Trump does, in fact, have an enemies list. It is real. And Swalwell says that he is number one. It's Kash Patel who's got the enemies list for Trump. And Swalwell is literally number one. So as a result, he's got like 3 little kids. I mean, little kids.
Cricket.
I think 2 of them are preschoolers. And he has to spend all this extra money on security for his family, for his house, but also for his staff. Because if they know that you're his staffer, they know where you go, they know where you work. And they have all the information on where you live and your family too. So they need protection. And he said it's almost a ploy in order to hurt Democrats, because it comes from money. A lot of it, or most of it, comes from money that would be part of your campaign fund. And so that's one of the ways that they figure that they can hurt the Democrats, is have them spend all the money rather than on attack ads. They'll spend it on security. So it's what you're saying is real. But the comedy club thing I had not heard, and
I hadn't heard that either.
That is scary. Have you heard more than one?
Just one. I hope I didn't make it sound like it was more than one.
Well, but it may be the fact that one is too many.
You've heard of one even, yeah.
Yeah. The other day I heard of it.
It's bullying, really, and it does intimidate everyone, not only the people. So, yeah, it does send this chilling message preemptively to anyone else that might even, or wasn't even considering, but it's like, yeah, I already know.
I don't want to take that chance.
Before I even have the story that I'm probably not going to do it. In fact, maybe I shouldn't be a journalist. Maybe I should open a yoga studio.
Maybe I should be a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
Well, who doesn't talk about politics? Well, I will tell you this. I have got this show called this solo show called The Great American Shit Show. and it is monologues on life in the era of Trump. And I started it in 2019 was the first version of it. And then it stopped during the pandemic, and I thought I was done with it. And then he ran again with Kamala, so I brought it back and thought I was done with it. And then on Inauguration Day, I did it again. Well, most of the shows that I did with this were sellout shows. Now I'm having trouble with theaters booking that show.
Mm-hmm.
Theaters that I had brought in, and in a lot of places I'm producing it myself. So these are theaters where I'm renting theater, and I'm having trouble in terms of places to produce that show. And I didn't want to believe it was out of MAGA fear, but I got to think that perhaps that's exactly what it is. I did have one theater tell me that had booked it, that had actually booked it. I wasn't producing it. They booked me to bring it in. And then they had, it's a nonprofit, most theaters are 501c3 nonprofits, and they got a board of directors, and they had enough MAGA members on their board of directors that they said that they wouldn't air it on they wouldn't allow it to be performed on their stage.
Well, this is very concerning because I'm developing a new show called Not a Genuine Shit Show. And it's, where am I going to place it?
I'd say in court. That's where I'd place it.
So that is so disturbing and concerning. And so my husband befriended two of the Capitol police officers who defended the Capitol that day.
On January 6th.
And they are both in fear of their lives. And yeah, that's my only point.
Well, and here's what's sick about that. Here's what's really sick about that. Ashley Babbitt, who was a traitor and an insurrectionist who tried to break into the Capitol on that day, was told to halt and did not, and continued to advance in a threatening, violent manner, was shot and killed by Capitol Police. Yet Trump arranges for her family to get $5 million in compensation, but not for the Capitol Police. Now, this is Mr. Law and Order.
Blue.
Yeah, it's exactly it. Yeah, he's the back of the blue, Mr. Law and Order. Yeah, Lois is writing down.
What I was going to say is, like, as scared as I am to do my fictional piece for the New York Times, I'm scared to talk here too.
Well, I'll tell you.
I've thought about this before as well.
Well, now here's why this is legitimate, because now since Charlie Kirk, they say they're going to crack down on the left. Now, we still don't know why this kid shot Charlie Kirk. We do know they came from a very conservative, right-wing, MAGA, pro-Trump family, guns and the whole 9 yards. But he was declined to state when he registered to vote. He was very, very vocal in support of the LGBTQ plus community. Once he started dating a trans person. So they're saying he's left, so they're going to crack down on the left. And among those, they said they're cracking down on, and I've got this jotted down here somewhere, and I cannot find it, but it's people who say negative things about Charlie Kirk on television, on radio, and they specifically say podcast hosts. As well as on stage. So yeah, this is I believe that it's legitimate, but it's not going to shut me up. It's not going to. I refuse to allow it to shut me up. I'm going to tell the truth as I see it. Once if I don't have freedom, then what's the point of being in America anyway?
I mean, Brian Malow moved out of the country.
I will tell you, every time a Republican is elected president, all these people say they're going to leave the country. Always. And or if this Republican wins the White House, I'm leaving the country. It never happens.
I just hate packing.
Yeah, I never made the threat. I mean, hey, it wasn't easy.
What made you move out of the country?
Okay, so there is a context, which is that in my travels over the past decade or more, I've loved every place I've been and thought, wow, what would it be like to live here? And I've wanted to experience living in another country. So that context, it didn't just come out of nowhere. Trump's elected, I'm leaving. It wasn't quite that knee jerk. There was a context of, man, I'd like to do it. Although every place I would like to go is very London, Amsterdam, Spain, every place that I would want to live is expensive. So that was one part of it. Around the time of the inauguration and shortly after, I was really disturbed. The level of ugliness, and there are a lot of things, but the things that like stood out to me were this USAID stuff and hurting farmers. The fact that it became clear that it's like, oh, they don't even care about hurting their supporters.
No,
that's not a good sign. And if you've spent any time on the White House Instagram page,
no.
Oh my God. I don't know if I should. It would be like telling you whether you should or should not see the footage of the shooting, because it's like there's a good argument for you don't need to see it. It doesn't need to be in your head.
No.
But you
I
should.
saw it and I wish I hadn't seen it.
Their Instagram account, it's gross. It has really disturbing, gross, hateful stuff on it pretty consistently. Early on, they did this. It was something like ASMR for immigrants, and they were for something like that, and for illegal aliens. And it was ASMR, and the ASMR was like the sound. They were showing images of people being heads down in chains to be deported from the country, perhaps to a country they didn't come from. And the ASMR thing was the sound of the chains.
For whom? Who was that for?
The people ICE picked up. The people ICE picked up and put in chains.
Yeah. And so, so many times you can think this, that, okay, even if you think we have a problem with illegal aliens and we should get rid of, we do need to address the problem.
By the way, you can call me politically correct all you want to, but illegal aliens is offensive to a lot of people. They're not aliens. They're not from outer space. They
right.
are, so call them what you want.
Illegal immigrants?
Undocumented immigrants.
Undocumented
is generally the folks that.
But even if you do feel like we have a problem with people coming to the country illegally, mm-hmm. and that you want to cut it off, this wouldn't be the way.
No. In
unmarked vehicles, brown shirt, masked thugs, and even then. Like what they did to the Koreans at the Hyundai Festival, like you don't have to chain them up. You don't have to throw them to the ground, like all of that. It's like, even if you wanted to argue that we have to do something, this isn't it. No. So there was a lot of, back to it's like, it was a combination of these things.
And this was the final.
I was like, wow, straw. These are really disturbing things. And I started thinking, I don't think it's going to be good for the economy. I don't think it's going to be good for human rights. And I was able to leave because I wasn't in a relationship. I didn't have a job that tied me to I was in Raleigh, North Carolina. And so like a friend of mine said, he asked his wife about maybe moving to another country, and she said no, and that was it. And they have kids. So I was in a position where it's like, you know what? Maybe this is what I've said is that I've wanted to for a long time. And this seemed like a good time to do it. If ever, I had a lot of resistance to it because, I'm going to move, but it's like, you know what? Maybe this is a good time to experience living in.
Do you have citizenship?
Not yet. I'm temporary. I do have residency, but it's like 7 years to citizenship. There's all this talk about what they want to do with give this new bill that would give control to Marco Rubio to take away people's passports for perhaps tweets.
Yeah. The thing was
that aren't sufficiently lauding
Or if you say negative things about Trump or negative things about Charlie Kirk. Yeah.
I can't even change a doctor or like, I don't even know how you just uprooted yourself. I mean, again, you
It's
said
so
you're
unlike me.
single. Oh, interesting. And
But,
Let me throw in this personal part of it. I was still living in a house that I had shared. I had gotten married and got a house, and I was still in that house for years. Arguably, it wasn't mentally healthy for me to stay there. And a friend of mine would go, "Well, why don't you just move?" And I'd go, no way. So there were all these things. It's like, you know what? I was at a point where I needed a kick in the ass, and it's like, you know what? Maybe I do need to. So there were personal reasons.
Yes. It was a jackboot kick in the ass, is what.
Yeah.
I
Well,
was
here's the
just
thing I
think
was-
that
I was
they're in
mentioning-
trouble. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, just as I mentioned at the top, people always say that they're going to leave, and this time people are doing it. Yeah, Rosie O'Donnell
Right.
left and went to Ireland. Eva Longoria went someplace in South America. She
Who
goes,
moved to Ireland? Who was
Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh, yeah.
She took her family to Ireland. Eva Longoria said, it's not a safe place now for me to raise my children. So there are people, a family member of mine is moving to Thailand. And it's because if you look at history, and there are all these people talking about 1930s Germany and all these documentaries coming out, and it's scary how close it is. You're going, we don't want to be there by the time America gets to 1940. We don't want to be there that year. And so people are, in fact, bolting. So let me ask you this question. Until 9 months ago, America led the world in so many different things, freedom and democracy and civil liberties and science, medical research, advances in cancer research that they have cut off at the knees, all funding for cancer research, which is so weird that they have cut it off at the knees. Health, as far as vaccines are concerned, food safety, climate change prevention, all of these things, all kinds of medical research and things. We led the world, and now we're pariahs. Now we are pariahs. Tourism is way down because, America is on a number of advisory lists from other countries, travel advisory lists about not a safe place to go. Not the best place to go. Canada's boycotting us. I mentioned last week, so there was a TikTok I saw from Disney World. And the guy was at Disney World on Labor Day. And if you've ever been to Disney World, there are a billion people. I say the best way to describe it, if you've never been, is think of Disneyland, but 4 times as large with 5 times as many people. Well, there was nobody on this TikTok. He's showing it. There's nobody. You walk right on a ride. There was no 2-hour wait, any of this.
It's a small crowd.
After all.
Hey, you know what? You just reminded me, it's kind of funny when you ask me what were my reasons. So much has happened that I forgot. I'm science oriented. And so immediately the cuts to science and not only medical research, but medical reporting, monitoring, 2 different parts to that. 3, the research, but medical monitoring, like of disease outbreaks, and the part where they're reporting those to the public. They were cutting those there were these CDC.
They'd blown up the CDC.
All of that stuff, but there were like messages regularly. So that all, I was like, some things you could go, I disagree, but I could see someone supporting that move.
Sure.
And then some things you go, what can possibly justify?
You're breaking up on us, Brian.
I think it's all like just a smoke screen to get us to look over there instead of looking at what's really going on, which is like a big money grift.
Yeah. No, you're right. You nailed it.
So it's insane that there are so many cuts, that there are vaccine mandates now, or no vaccine.
No, that's the issue. Like in Florida, they are getting rid of all vaccine mandates.
Like I'm getting
schools.
my a COVID vaccine, and I have to provide a reason. And I went down the list, and the only reason that I can get one is because I used to be a smoker.
So you
So
used to be a smoker, meaning that you have lung damage potentially. Is that what the deal is?
I guess, but that's on the list. Like I had to look down the list. I am not diabetic. I'm not obese. But I found one and I have to prove that, or come up with a reason. Like I shouldn't have to come up with a reason.
Well, they're trying to make it harder. Kennedy wants it so that you can't just go to CVS. By the way, it looks like Brian's internet connection dropped out, so hopefully he'll be back.
Well,
with us in a
he's
second.
not in this country.
Yeah, and he said something bad about Trump. Gone. Gone.
No, but Brian, I honestly, I'm scared to speak my mind. So I guess.
Well, see, for a comic, even though you're not political, what's next? If you don't say anything that you won't talk about politics, there's something that you've said. You can have the most benign act in the world. That's funny. And something you say is going to offend somebody. You know that. You've done this long enough that you know you've pissed somebody off for something you said that was not meant to be offensive in any way, shape, or form. I'm sure that's happened to you.
Well, just being a woman or being Jewish has pissed people off, I'm sure. But maybe not so much my words, unless my mother's in the audience and she doesn't like that I've been talking about her on stage.
Other than that.
I'm trying to make you laugh.
And then talk about your mother. Talk about your mom on stage. But it's like, I just how much do you ad lib? Do you do like a lot of crowd work at all?
I love talking to the crowd. When I first started, I had like a script. I didn't utter a syllable that wasn't on my piece of paper. And I've been doing this 40 years now. And
Me too.
So really, as I've gotten more comfortable on stage, I love kibitzing with the audience because the audience wants to know that the person on stage is the funny brain. Mm-hmm. And it's not a script. It's not an actor. And so they want to know that that person is the leader of the comedy. And so the best person at that I've seen is Paula Poundstone.
Oh, absolutely.
And she can talk to anybody. And Jimmy Brogan's great at that too. And now they're the new ones, Jessica Curzon and Matt Rife.
We're talking about crowd work.
Yeah.
Okay. And worrying about what it is that you say.
All the way back, I was going to say 20 years ago, but I guess it was more like in the 80s and 90s. I was like, Paula, when she would talk to the audience, what she would say sounded as perfectly crafted as every joke of hers. It was just like, it was clearly, and it also wasn't, oh, you're a lawyer, here's my prepackaged joke. It was clearly spontaneous, and it was just as good as everything she wrote.
And the audience loves that because it's like an inside joke with the audience. So they feel like they're actually in a moment. We're all connecting in this moment. I think that's one thing that AI can't do is connect people like that.
Well, I will tell you, and I know I'm in the minority in terms of saying this, and I've never been a big fan of crowd work. There are people who are great at it. As I said, Paula is the best that I've ever seen. Second, you want to go back to the golden age. Steve Allen was one of the best ever, if not the best ever, whoever did it. But to me, I've seen so many comics who it's like rather than write, I'll just ask, make sure that by the time we leave, everybody knows what everyone else does for a living.
But I mean, that's the thing.
We all know what they do.
Well, I try to ask different questions now. Like, what was the best part of your day today so far?
That's
and instigating a different kind of thought. But I'm wondering why you don't like. Do you think it's like pandering, or do you think it's lazy?
Lazy.
But what if I have real jokes and I talk to
you talk to the crowd? Okay, well, then it's a hybrid, and that's different, I suppose. But it's like, to me, it's like comics should go. I take time to sit down and write. I mean, I write novels. When I was doing stand-up full time, I would sit down and spend time every day writing jokes and playing with words and crafting things. And then you meet these comics who never write and go, I write on stage. That's just lazy. I write on stage. So if I accidentally say something funny, I wrote, I cracked a guy up at the gas station today. I'll use that. And I guess that's it. And I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. It's just a personal preference. And not that I haven't seen people do crowd work. That's cracked me up.
Right. But if you judge it by the worst kind, like what's your name? What do you do for a living? And it's just that standard. But then yeah, that's pretty crappy and hacky, nothing interesting. But if someone like Paula Poundstone,
Paula's different. She's a whole different. She's in a whole different category. If she just came on stage with no prepared material but really entertained an audience by being funny in the moment, I would be fine with that. And I appreciate good writing. I care about good writing. In fact, let me tell you an anecdote. When I first got to LA many years ago, I was at the Laugh Factory and there was someone on stage and I couldn't have been less interested because I didn't hear anything that was interesting. And I heard two industry women behind me just go, she's just adorable. They were just loving her because she was adorable. And I was sitting there going, I don't hear any jokes that are interesting. So I care about writing.
Was it me?
No.
Was it me?
No.
Oh, okay.
If it was, would you be sitting here with us?
But so if they're very entertaining and smart and fun, but if it's the lamest kind, and now in this age where you're just trying to get Instagram clips,
an Instagram clip, and it's just all right. Let me ask you this: if you had to on a dare. Could you get on a stage and do 45 minutes and not do anything you've written? Just 45 minutes of improv where everything's completely improvised and you keep this, nothing you've ever said before, nothing you've ever heard before.
Yes, but I would bomb.
Yeah. There you go. Then I could also.
You know what I found when I bomb, which isn't that often.
It's funnier.
It's not that funnier. Often. But I feel exactly the same way that I felt before I did stand-up. I feel misunderstood. I feel panicky. I feel alone. I feel depressed. It's a panicky feeling when you're bombing. And that's how I felt before I did stand-up. That doesn't answer your question. But no, I couldn't do 45 minutes of just talking. But what I could do is talk and weave in my jokes, which is what I do. I get to open for Fritz Coleman, who did the weather here for 40 years in LA.
Oh, is he headlining now?
Well, he has his own residency at the El Portal Theater in North Hollywood.
Because he had a solo show was the last thing.
And this is like stand-up meteorology?
Yeah.
What is it?
I was a weatherman for 2 years for the Fox affiliate. Yeah, the morning show, the Fox affiliate here.
He does stand-up for 45 minutes. And I open his show. He's hilarious and the sweetest guy you ever met. And I open his show and he's very by the book. Like he knows, he tries new material all the time, but he's a material guy. I open up, I engage the audience. It's like 80 people and they feel like they're in a community, which I think is important. But I have to weave in my joke. Like I talk about who's married the longest, and then I do jokes about that. And so I try to make it comfortable and entertaining and in the moment. So
have you pissed anybody off? That's what started this about what you can and can't say. When you're doing crowd work like that, have you ever said anything that pissed anybody off?
So I don't know why I pissed this guy off, but one time I did that show and I looked to my right and there was an older gentleman. A lot of the audience, because it's 3 p.m. on a Sunday. And so it's like a lot of 60s and 70s and 80-year-olds.
And their parents.
Right, exactly. That's what Fritz says. Yeah. And there was an 80-year-old man, and he's just sitting there like this. And I tried to engage him, and he was just like this. And then after I got off stage, he left. So he didn't even stay for Fritz. So I don't know what I said. I have no idea. And he was by himself.
But it might not have been you. He was an 80-year-old guy. He might have had to go to the bathroom. He might have had a kidney stone issue. You don't know. Either that or you walk open.
His gout was acting up.
Yeah, and he liked you so much that he actually like,
Yes, he braved the pain until you were done. I just saw my favorite, my absolute favorite old person joke now. It was a George Burns line that I'd never heard before, and he said that he goes, "When I was a kid, the Dead Sea was just sick."
Well, I did piss somebody off once, and this was in San Francisco.
Of
and
course, it was.
It was a wedding group, like a bridal shower. And I pointed to one of the women and I said, "Oh, are you the mother of the bride?" Well, apparently she was not the mother of the bride. She was a bridesmaid, and she was hysterical, because not hysterically laughing, but she said, "I knew I was too old to be part of your coterie." So I ended up like having a therapy session after the show and saying I didn't have my glasses on.
And the wedding didn't take place.
I'm going to write that one down.
The wedding was canceled.
I might not set out to do a full show of just talking to the audience, but haven't you ended up, outside of comedy clubs, haven't you ended up in any bar performing situations where material isn't going to work? They really want me. So I did one.
It's called holding court.
Last year in North Carolina, where there was a room where it was in a little small town and they were probably mostly conservative and not liberal. And, and then I'm also thinking many years ago, a gig I once did on Catalina Island at this little bar. And, they kept sending me drinks and it was just me. And I was on stage a couple hours, and I don't think I did very much material. And when it's that kind of crowd where if you do a shot, it gets the best response. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes you're like, okay, then, and I'm not going to just, what's your name? What do you do for a living? But I've been forced to dick around for quite a bit of a show.
Oh yeah. When your material's not working and
it's kind of fun sometimes, especially if it's in a low risk, like it doesn't matter. You're not at the Improv. You're at some bar in the middle of nowhere. What does it matter? It's a good opportunity to kind of stretch those legs.
Only time I've ever done that when it really, really worked, was I was headlining. I had to do an hour, and and I'm doing material, and I was going through a horrible, nasty divorce. With court and the whole, it was a really, really, we're good friends now, I should mention, by the way. But at the time, it was about as ugly as it can possibly get. So I'm 10 minutes in and material's not working. And there's a group of guys in front of me, and it's a bachelor party. And there's a guy who's getting married, and I just start going off. And I went off for like 55, 60 minutes telling this guy, "You're getting married. Okay, my first advice, write your name on all of your albums." I remember that line. I don't remember a lot of the rest of it, but it was his friends are just dying. And he's like, "Me, I make a mistake." And I hope it went through. That's the wrong cover.
It's hard to go back to material when you're having a spontaneous moment. Even if it's just a little moment, it's always that transition back into written material. It's always a little challenging because you're being very live. And then it's like, here's a thing about my cat.
I did a show recently. It was at this exclusive Beverly Hills club, and the clientele was in their 30s and mostly not American. So not everybody spoke the language, and the host went on and talked to the audience the whole time. He was great. And then he brought me up and I start doing material, and one guy yells out, "Just talk to us." And so he wanted to talk about his breakup. And so I was going to be a therapist. So I put on that hat for a minute and tried to make jokes that I'd already, were in my arsenal. But that's what they wanted. And
sometimes that's, the other time that I had a situation like yours, Brian. I was I went through a short phase when I was 22 when I when I say shred, I mean like maybe 3 or 4 shows where I was a middle act. No, I was headlining. And it was I would say I'll drink anything that you send me. I'll drink anything that you send me. And basically the more you send me, the funnier I get, kind of a
You
thing.
said that on stage?
Yeah. And so it was like shot after shot after shot after shot after shot after shot. And I was told the next day that I killed it.
Yeah.
I remember the only thing I remember, because it was a lot of mezcal. I do remember that. And I remember being in the parking lot after the show trying to find the worm in my puke with a stick.
Maybe it's still in your brain.
No, it got shifted to, his brain.
Yes.
I do a lot of very nerdy science. It's like if I had a room full of scientists, I'm going to do this really nerdy. But when I was in that small town situation, I've walked into a couple situations like that where I go, I still have all my old material, old regular, not science geeky stuff that I can pull out about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, drinking. But I size the room up and go, yeah, my nerdiest stuff is not going to fly here. So I have to do something else.
You have to be able to pivot. You got to be able to pivot and do something different.
But don't underestimate the audience. They might have liked it.
That is true.
Within a couple of lines,
right? That's true.
With a crowd like that, if you're doing a specific thing, you know within the first 3 minutes, whether or not, okay, I got to figure something else out.
Just talk to us.
Yeah, and you could tell when you said I was doing a lot of more aggressive than the typical me. It was but that's what they want. They loved it as I was making fun of people in the audience. They really like that. And it's like, okay, it's fun. I'm having fun with them. They don't want to hear my bit about feline existentialism.
Is that Schopenhauer or?
And by the way, Wendy, I like your dogs too. And they're very well behaved.
In the very beginning, I go, are those live? Are those real? Are they live? No, nobody would stuff dogs. That's just wrong.
It's a picture behind me. They're called Jindos. They're rescued from Korea, South Korea. They are a rare breed, but they're making their way to California.
Illegal canines.
What?
Illegal canines.
Right, illegal canines. They have their papers.
They have a
documented canine.
Right. And they are as trainable as a carrot. They are, they're actually they're hunters and by nature. So the LAPD train them to sniff out drugs or people. And they were great until they got into the field. And once they got into the field, they all just ran away. And so they're very damaged dogs because they were being raised to be dinner.
They had a rough life.
It's interesting how all dogs are bred for something. Retrievers were, hunting dogs, or, they go out and retrieve the dog. Dachshunds are as long as they are because they were bred for getting moles and gophers. That's what they were bred for. So every dog.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They were bred for a specific.
You could hold them by the hind legs and just drop them down a hole.
And let them and come back up. And it's like fishing for gophers. I have a Bichon Frise. Little white Bichon Frise. Her name is Crypto. And what I found out and wasn't aware of makes a lot of sense because this is the neediest dog I've ever had. I mean, I can hear her crying. I can hear her crying upstairs now, so I finish. So I go to get her.
She's not real though, right?
All over me. No, she's real.
No, I meant Crypto.
No, not that Crypto. But I did name her after that Crypto. But she's 6, so that's that. I didn't jump on the bandwagon. But what I found out why these dogs are so needy, because I got on like one of the Facebook sites for Bichons, and everybody says the same thing. They cling to you and they cry if you're not near them. And they want to be by you all the time. They were bred solely for the purposes of sitting on the laps of French aristocracy. That was their gig. They were bred specifically to sit on the laps of rich French people. That's it. They didn't have to go out and retrieve birds. They didn't have to stick their heads in gopher holes. They didn't have to do anything.
Mon Dieu.
Yeah, Brian, for decades, my mom raised Bichon Frises in Houston and first as show dogs. And if you've never seen a litter of like 8 when they're, oh my God, they're adorable. When
I've seen pictures.
Oh my God, when they're little tiny, they're so adorable. And we'd had a German short haired pointer, bigger dog.
I had one of those too, but
my
God. I'm showing. Yeah, I can't. We had a Bichon Poodle for years.
Yeah.
Oh, JJ.
My mom bred these dogs, and then at one point, her big claim to fame was, and this would have been, she's been gone about 17 years. Some years before that, someone representing Aaron Spelling from California reached out to my mom as a breeder in Houston and acquired one of her Bichons.
Wow.
So
she had a reputation.
Well, because I got mine from a backyard breeder somewhere up. They were like Roseville up above.
Bichons from the street.
Yeah, it's street dogs. But finding a breeder, there aren't that many breeders that are around. Actually, in California, I think it's illegal. Unless you're a breeder with a license, it's illegal. You can't,
That breeding stuff you said, what about those dogs that we've really fucked up? Where they don't breathe well, their faces are
you're talking about like bulldogs and all that kind of stuff? I don't know. You'll have to look them up. That I don't know. I do know, I think that those little bulldogs are cute, but I just could not stand personally would just drive me out of and I don't like dogs that slobber. That's just gross.
I never had a dog until I met my husband. That didn't come out right.
You know what? This is a perfect segue. I did want to make sure that
I can't hear you.
I do want to make sure that I get to this. You can't hear me at all?
Can you hear me?
Hear you.
How about if I sign the question?
Now I can hear you.
Now you can hear me.
What was the question?
Okay, this is a story I picked up online. There was a guy who was aware that his company had a no fraternization policy in terms of employees. And there was a woman who was hired temporarily to come in and to do a training. And at the end of the training, when she was done, he asked her for her phone number and got it. One of the other employees saw and narked. And this trainer, it turned out it wasn't her last day. They had just renewed her contract for like another 6 weeks, but they fired her for violating the no fraternization policy. And once they found out about the misunderstanding, they offered her a job back. She told them to go screw themselves. But my question is this. There are a lot of companies that in 2025 have these policies. And here's what I don't understand. Maybe one of you can explain this to me. Because it's been a long time since I've worked in an office type situation. And why do these policies exist? If it's not like a subordinate working, directly with you, who's, their assignments or promotions you're responsible for. If you're not playing grab ass around the office, what difference is it of the companies who you decide to date? I mean, is there something I'm missing? Is there a disconnect? Either one of you ever dated anybody at work when you had day jobs?
I could see, let's say you date someone and it doesn't work out, and you could end up creating an uncomfortable situation between two employees. But I feel like that's what should be against the rules. Then you can do it, but if there's a problem, you better not bring that problem into the workplace. But short of that, it's like you spend so much of your life there, you're likely to meet someone at work.
Well, that's why Tavis Smiley lost his show because of that, because he was dating producers. He dated something like 6 or 7 producers over the years that he had his show on PBS. And his argument was, I spend 20 hours a day there. Where else am I supposed to meet people? And there was never any evidence that he promoted somebody or that. But technically, they were all subordinates because he owned the company. But
I think that's the question. I mean, I think that's the reason is that they don't want it to be that somebody feels like they have to date somebody to get ahead. So they want to eliminate that issue. That said, it sounds like it's just becoming an umbrella policy for all employees.
Mhm.
And I think what Brian Malow said is that, yeah, because what happens if you break up? So maybe they should change the rule to you can date a colleague if you're getting married. If you're definitely going to tie the knot.
Breakups aren't allowed.
But don't go to a comedy club.
How about if you're already married?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Like, I mean, because you could break up too.
Have either of you,
Right.
and you don't have to, and you don't have to answer this. Have either of you ever dated a coworker or another comic?
I dated a comic
Did you? For how long?
over a year.
Really? That's like 50 dog years with a comic for over a year.
Did
Really?
you have that? There's so many questions that come to mind to me. One is like, were you both middle acts or headliners, or was one a headliner and one a middle act? Was there a tension of who thought who was funnier and whose career was going better?
We were just really funny together.
Yeah.
But he was a middle act and I was a headliner. So you could argue that we shouldn't have been allowed to date because
That's like seniors dating sophomores. That's what that is. That's
but
like
it
a
just
senior-
happened because I met him on the road and
You're on the road.
he was in my apartment when we had an earthquake. And so we fell in love. And I mean, love is, well, you're a scientist. What is love?
It's probably just an unfortunate release of biochemicals.
I am watching a series on Netflix. It's my favorite series I've ever seen. I'm watching it again. That's how much I love it. And I've never done that before. It's a Korean show. So the dogs watch it with me. It's called Beyond the Bar. And it's about a young lawyer and an older lawyer. And each episode is about a different case. Anyway, I'm just telling your audience, Brian.
You're just plugging them. You're just
I
throwing
just
them a plug.
love it
Because
so much.
you want to be on the second season of the show. So that's basically what it is you're doing.
What's it called?
Beyond the Bar.
Beyond the Bar.
I couldn't be on the second season. I don't speak Korean.
Oh, subtitles?
Yeah.
Well, they could dub you in.
Actually, it's dubbed. And I have started, like I went through all the British shows and now I'm on the Korean shows and some of them are not dubbed. And so I sit there on my phone and I read the subtitles and my husband's like, who are you?
All right. I'm gonna go back to this other topic. Brian, have you ever dated a comic?
I don't think so. I don't even know if I've had much of a flirtation, like not even short of like dating. Nothing. I don't think so.
I did once. My last girlfriend before I got married, I was 22 and she was 35. And I was a headliner and she was a middle. Same as you. And it just got weird after a while, especially because it makes it hard. It makes it weirder to work together, especially when everyone else knows that you're involved. And it was just weird.
I love these couples who go on the road together who are married, like Tom Cotter and his wife. And blanking.
Are they both? Is she a comic?
Yeah, they're both great comics, and I can't believe I'm blanking on her name. But they do shows together. And
what is a team, or is one a headliner, one a middle, or how does it work?
Co-headline.
Uh-huh.
And Al Ducharme and. Why am I blanking on the females' names?
Sexism.
Bernadette Pauly. But I have to find Tom Cotter's wife because, I'm 64 years old and my memory.
You don't look it. You look amazing.
Really? Thank you.
Yes.
It's all the filters. And okay, it's
AI.
Carrie Louise is Tom Cotter's wife. And I think she just shot a pilot. Anyway, I love that.
Is he okay?
Is he okay? Oh.
Really?
Um,
Vaudeville died for a reason.
No, I don't know where that and the
They didn't
rough.
die, they
God.
killed it.
That reminds me, I go out to theater with a couple of female comedians, Monica Piper, Kathy Gladman, Debbie Casper. And we saw
Kathy did the show last week. She's great.
Oh, okay. We saw a show called Shucked. And in it were like pun after pun after pun. It was hilarious. It was so corny. Anyway, so when you said, the pilot, she shot a pilot.
Well,
I talk too much.
See, I couldn't do that, because being married and going on the road and on stage. Because what if you had a fight right before, it's
It'd probably be extra funny.
How about half for the opener? Nah, she sucked.
So my husband's funnier than I am, but he is so scared of attention. And he said he would just stand on stage and wet his pants.
So that would be his closer.
His opener and his closer.
There's a great story.
Have you dated you were married? Have you dated a comic? Did you say, Brian?
Me?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Brian.
Yeah,
Brian.
I did, yeah.
The 35-year-old.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Middle
Last one before I got married. Yeah, she was the middle act.
Was your wife funny?
No. Yes, actually, she was very funny. She was very, very funny. She was a civilian, which is how it should be.
That other point I haven't experienced, but whether you're a comic or an actor, anything in the arts, it could be in almost any field, but there's this thing where one person is getting things. Like, let's say the auditions are working out for one and the other isn't, and you want to, hey, aren't you going to celebrate my wins? And the partner is over there not having the wins. Yeah.
There's so many things.
And if you're both or headliners, you can never work. You're always on the road separately.
Unless you do the co-headline thing. There's a story. There's a great story of the great Walter Matthau that I heard, that he was traveling through Europe with his wife, who was a civilian, and they're not getting along. And there's nothing worse than traveling with, your partner or your spouse and not getting along, arguing on the plane and arguing, So they're going on a tour of Auschwitz, and she's just on him. They're arguing and arguing and arguing. And finally he says, "Will you stop? You're ruining Auschwitz for me."
My God. That sounds like a line from one of his movies.
It sounds like it, but from what I'm told is true. I don't know if I've seen every Matthau movie, but that's what I heard. I want to end with this. The AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act advanced in Congress today. And if you have not heard this, car makers want to stop putting AM radios in vehicles. If they had been able to do it, they would have done it starting with this model year. So you get a car, there's FM, there's room for satellite and Bluetooth and all that stuff, but there would be no AM radio. So you have a Florida Republican and a New Jersey Democrat who have sponsored this AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act, and they say that AM has an essential role in delivering emergency alerts because of the way the signal is. It can get to rural areas that FM cannot. And as somebody, I'll tell you this in the interest of disclosure, I spent 27 years in AM radio. I am in 2 weeks being inducted into the Bay Area Radio Hall of Fame. So I just wanted the applause. That's the only reason I said that. So I love AM radio, but AM radio is just angry white guys bitching. You guys are closer to my age. You must remember being able to hear music, hearing the top Casey Kasem on AM on Sunday mornings from 8 until noon, or the white earplug that you put in, speaker that you put in one ear, and with the transistor radio and the covers over your head when you're supposed to be sleeping. It ain't that way anymore.
That was me.
So I'm curious, first of all, when was the last time that you listened to the radio, not counting a sporting event? when was the last time you actually listened to the radio, and when is the last time you listened to AM? Because my kids did not listen to the radio. I go, so where are you hearing your music? Oh, we're hearing it off of iTunes or Spotify or YouTube. They don't, or sitting next to the radio with a tape recorder, waiting for your favorite song to start, so that you could record your favorite song and hit record as soon as your favorite song came on. Those are joys they'll never know. They'll never know the joy of hearing that they're waiting for the DJ. Just shut up so the song will start. So when's the last time you listened to the radio?
So I have an AMC car. No, I don't know what that is. Okay.
A gremlin?
A gremlin. No, I have a weird situation where rats eat the wires in my car. And so every once in a while things go out. And the last time I listened to AM radio was when they had eaten through all the wires that allowed me to hear Sirius and FM radio. So I only do it by default. I don't do it on purpose. It's just because I didn't like driving without listening to something. So
you became right-wing indoctrinated over the course of that drive. And by the way, that's not that weird of a situation. I've got friends who live in rural areas who say it is common that the rats will get into your engine block and stuff and will build nests.
I mean, I'm talking thousands and thousands of dollars that insurance has paid for some of it, but it keeps happening. So I have to find a less delicious car.
Apparently, this is happening in LA.
Yes, it happens to my husband's car and it happened to one of my stepson's cars. So I keep hearing about it. They especially love Volkswagens.
Wow. I also, I never really cared about talk radio. So it's been years, because years ago I was just like, between, no offense, Brian, DJs talking and commercials, there's not that much music. And then it's not always songs you like. I gave up on radio quite a long time ago to just listen to my own music. And that was even before streaming services where you could go ahead and find not just put on what you already owned, but you could be exposed to more. So I haven't done radio in a long time.
I have an 8-track player in my car.
Well, what's the motivation for the getting rid of?
Motivation for getting rid of it is that with electric cars, and I wrote this down for you specifically to make sure that I said this correctly, that electric motors generate electromagnetic interference that makes AM reception noisy and unreliable. It can be fixed, it can be blocked, but it's expensive and it adds weight to the car. So that's one. And also AM has lower audio fidelity than FM or satellite. So car makers say that it's outdated. So, I mean, I don't, as I said, our listeners, I was on a 50,000 watt station, and our listeners, especially towards the end, were all older people. It was, the kids weren't listening, but then the kids weren't listening to FM. FM now is what AM was when I was a kid. AM was top 40 bubblegum stuff, and FM was dangerous. Remember when FM was dangerous? FM, they would say stuff, at night that you couldn't believe that somebody said on there. Like the FCC just went to sleep. They weren't paying. They're not listening.
Doesn't FCC kind of spell fuck?
I never thought about that, but I guess it does.
Hey, you didn't. Okay, I don't want to change the subject, but
good.
Well, one thing there, I remember hearing something recently about how there are rural areas that right-wing talk radio has been very pervasive, and because in some places that's the only thing there are places where pretty much the only thing you can get, I think there were even Russian propaganda channels. Have you heard?
That I haven't heard, but it wouldn't surprise me. And that's because the AM signal is so strong. The station I was on, KGO in San Francisco, 50,000 watts. We were number one every single ratings book from 1978 to 2008. So for 30 straight years, a unbroken record.
Because it was the only channel.
Because what?
Because it was the only station.
Yeah, because of that. In San Francisco, that was the only station. But at night, it was the whole Western United States. I remember driving all night once, driving to LA from San Francisco, and by the time to Palm Desert, I was playing like an improv or something in Palm Desert, Laugh Factory. I can't remember what it was in Palm Desert, and not missing a word the whole way down. I remember getting on a red eye out of Salt Lake City to come home at night and picking up KGO. But that signal is so strong. And so that's why in these rural areas, that all they're getting is a straight diet of Hannity and people like that. And
does
that's
the bill say anything about CB radio?
Right.
You know what? When I was a kid, I wanted a CB radio so badly during that 6 months and they were hip. I really, really, really wanted one. Really, really, really wanted a breaker. Oh, yeah, I did. And they're still around because there's a CB store in town, believe it or not.
Wow.
Must be truckers. It's got.
I was just going to say,
right?
if I changed the topic, weren't we going to at least celebrate the exciting news that it turns out Jeffrey Epstein never trafficked girls to anyone? Isn't that exciting news?
Yes, that's what Cash Patel says. Well, as far as he knows, he hasn't seen anything. He said any documents that would indicate otherwise.
Why are there so many documents then?
And why did it take 1,000 agents to scrub Trump's name off of the documents that are there? We were talking about this last week. It's like, he took something like 7 documented trips on the Lolita Express, which was Epstein's plane, to the private island. Okay, so if you got on it once and you got there, and you got to the place where you're going and you saw what was going on, and you left, okay, you get a pass. But if you come back 7 times,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
I just want to be clear that what's going on here is what I thought was going on. Does this happen every time? If I go again, I'm not going to get laid again, am I?
By a 14-year-old. Wendy, you've got to go. Before you go, anything you want to plug?
I just hope everybody is kind to everybody else.
Nobody's going to come see that.
Oh, you're going to be so let down. I feel
And I'm sorry that, I loved being on your show. I'm sorry I couldn't be more political.
Well, it's not all politics.
I know,
we just talk.
Okay. So, I just hope I get to come back.
Absolutely. Anytime you want. Well, wait a minute. What about your residency? What about Fritz's residency?
I open for him once a month at the El Portal Theater in North Hollywood on a Sunday. It's on my website, wendyliebman.com. I also run a show called Locally Grown Comedy at Flappers every couple of months. And the next one is October 3rd. So check that out. And I hope everybody is kind to everybody. And it was so great to see Brian Malow again. I haven't seen him since Vegas.
It's been a long time.
Thank you for doing the show, and all of your information about you. It'll be in the show notes. Your website links and your X links and Facebook and all that stuff, so people can reach out to you.
Awesome.
So thanks, Wendy. We'll see you soon.
Great to see you, Wendy.
Bye.
All right, Brian. Anything you want to plug?
Just if you are inclined to visit San Miguel de Allende, let me know.
You are coming here, right? You are doing shows here. You were coming to the Bay Area last time we talked.
Yeah. So I'm going to be there soon. October, it's private gig. Well, actually, I'm doing 2 shows. One is for a conference of the American Physical Society. That's a physics organization.
I'm sorry, I nodded off while you were talking about it.
Yeah. But then on the Sunday night that I just happened to be there, me and Mike Capizzola will be at the Crow's Nest.
The Crow's Nest.
So that's Sunday. I think it's October 12th. if that seems like a Sunday?
You are the third comic 3 weeks in a row who's mentioned they're playing the Crow's Nest in Santa Cruz. I have not played that in years. I can't believe it's still doing comedy.
I know that has to be one of the longest running one-nighters in comedy.
One of the biggest boos I ever got in my life, in my entire career.
Do you know why? Or for the whole show?
I'll tell you why. Because you see, you have a lot of students from UC Santa Cruz that come to the show, and their mascot is the banana slug. So there were a bunch of those guys who were, they're wearing their Letterman jackets, all this stuff, sitting in front. And I said, what do you guys think? We're the banana slugs. And I said, well, who's your rivalry with? Salt? And they booed me.
Perfectly reasonable question.
They booed me. So when are you at the Crow's Nest?
Yeah, it is. It's October 12th. So
October 12th.
I'll be in town for just a few days, but one is to do this physics gig, and then why not? The thing is, I wasn't even considering, but Capozola had already lined the gig up, and he said he didn't even want to headline it. I don't think he's a fan of the room. He thinks I've always sort of had. It's been years, but I always kind of had fun there. It is. I
always had a blast there. They were a rowdy crowd.
Some of the crowd is far away and hard to.
Yeah, and the layout for it.
I've had fun there.
It's a seafood restaurant, right? Isn't that what it is? It's a seafood restaurant, and then down below, and then it's a bar up on top, and you're playing up on top.
I'm looking forward.
See when we comics over the places we play. In the 80s, anywhere where there was a brick wall, they threw a mic in front of it, and we would grab the mic and start doing stuff. Yep. So, Brian Malow, I'm sure that I will see you soon. Holler at me when you're coming up here, because maybe I'll come up to the Crow's Nest and meet you. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me again.
All right. We'll see you soon, I hope. That is going to do it for us. I will check out next week. Please remember to like and to subscribe if you like this podcast. If you are listening to the podcast as opposed to YouTube, do subscribe, and also go to the podcast provider and leave us a 5-star review. It helps people to find the show. I'll check you out next week. Till then, be kind to your neighbor. He knows where you live.